So we are on Mem Dalid Amid Bey. No, we're not. Mem Vav Amid Beys.
Don't put this back there.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be bad to Chazer, but yeah. Yeah, Mem Vav Amid Beys, and we just finished another answer as to why we needed two statements. Remember, we said Halacha Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. We also said Halacha is like the Mekel by Eruvin, and the question was, why do I need both statements? Why can't I figure out one from the other? So I had one answer in Amman Aleph that sort of took us on a side road in terms of Halacha Yachid V'Rabim, Halacha Karabim, and we sort of knocked Rava out with that one, because that was the initial answer that I wouldn't know that we follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri even when it's 2-1. That you'd be makel even when it's 2-1. So we have to pass Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri to make it clear that even when it's 2-1. Then we had Rav Papa's answer at the very end of Friday's shir that that might only be true by Eruvin Chatzeros, but by Eruvin Tchumin, maybe that's not the place where we always go after the makel, and therefore I need another statement that Rabbi Yochanan, like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, to apply it even to Eruvin Tchumin, because clearly that's where Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri was talking about the rules of a guy falling asleep as Shabbos hits, and the issue was Eruvin Tchumin. Okay, so that's where we up to third line from the top. And how do you, where do you see that there's such a distinction? That when you have a rule, halachic divrei mekel be'eruvin, that maybe there's a distinction between one eruv and another eruv, that it wasn't a universal statement about all eruvs. So the answer is it's not. Mishnah says, when do we say this? Only by Eruvin Tchumin. When it comes to Eruvin Chatzeros, you don't need his prior knowledge to make the eruv. Even if it's sholadas, it's going to be okay because we have a rule in halacha throughout Shas. We have a famous rule, and that rule is shezachin la'adam shalbafanav vein chavin la'adam elufanav. Okay, so you are allowed to merit somebody without his knowledge. You can't do something to a person's detriment without his knowledge, but to purely benefit him, you can. And Eruvin Tchumin is not a pure benefit. Eruvin Chatzeros is. I mean, you can carry it. There's nothing wrong. There's no downside to being able to carry. You don't want to, don't. But there's no downside to being able to. But having an Eruvin Tchumin made for you without your knowledge is potentially a downside. Because who says you want to go in that direction? I might want to go in a different direction. Okay, let's catch up in the Rashis here. Amar of Yehuda. Last wide line of Rashi. Amar Yudel Kamam Perak Chalain. We're going to learn about this later on Pei Aleph. That you're not allowed to make an error for a person with only with his knowledge in his Sratza, where he says yes, go ahead and do it. And maybe it's a negative for him to lose 2,000 amis to the east, with the intention of gaining 2,000 amas to the west. Now, maybe not everybody wants to hear Gelfat? What's the name? The Chazan? Helfgad. Who says everyone wants to hear Helfgad? Who's going to, maybe he'd rather grab the cholent going to the west. So you don't know what his exact intentions are. Just because everybody else thinks it's a big deal, he doesn't necessarily think it's a big deal. So who says he's going to buy into the eruv that you're making for him? You got to get his das. Okay. Eruvin Chatzeros ein shom hefsed el revach. By Eruvin Chatzeros there is no downside, only upside. It's only a benefit. So there you don't have to get his das. But when you are talking about something which might be negative, might be positive, even though it might be a smaller percentage, it doesn't matter. It's still a problem. Okay. Fine. So that's now our third answer as to why we needed two statements, that we follow the Mekel by Eruv, and that we follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri in the halach of the sleeping Jew. Okay, answer number 4. Rav Ashi Amar. Rav Ashi is Itzrich. No, I need it for another reason. Now, again, these don't necessarily argue with one another. They're just giving different reasons as to why I need both statements. The rule that we always go after the Mekel when it comes to Eruv might be at the back end of Eruv, not at the front end of making an Eruv. okay, the sort of the remainder of Eruvs, sort of as Eruv is dwindling down, we always follow the Mekel. Ava b'tchilas Eruv, but when it comes to the beginning part of making an Eruv, maybe that rule doesn't apply. A Malay, maybe it wouldn't be true. Now, here, in the case of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, it was about making the Eruv in the front end of things. Okay, he fell asleep and he needed 2,000 amis, and it was about making an Eruv, or at least being kaina his shvisa, about being able to acquire a place so that this would be my 2,000 amis. That's on the front end. Maybe you don't go makel on the front end. That's why you need the other statement of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. But I might think it's different, and obviously the kash is where do you ever get this idea from that there's a distinction between the front end of an Eruv versus the back end of an Eruv? Show me that there's such an idea like that. You seem like you're coming up randomly with this difference. So I should know it's not a random concept. It's a real situation that we have in halacha. The Tan, because we have a Mishnah, also later on, so we're getting a lot of sneak previews to second half of Eruvin, okay, Art Scroll 2. The Tan, we learned in the Mishnah, when do we say this halacha? Only at the front end of an Eruv. But as the Eruv is dwindling down and getting smaller and smaller, afilu kol shehu. Even the smallest amount of an Eruv, if you have enough to give each one a little morsel of food, that's enough to keep an Eruv intact. To make an Eruv, you need, let's say, a Suda for everybody or different Shurim. That's in the front end. But let's say as weeks go by and, I guess the mice have a nice, time with the Eruv, and then every time you go back, it's a little bit less, it's a little bit less. But in the meantime, there's still enough to give out to each guy. Even if it's a kol shu, that's going to be good. And another point, which will be more clarified later, but let's just, we'll plow through it now, because a little bit of a cryptic concept going on here. And we don't say this whole idea of Erev Chatzeros, El Kadei Lishkach Teres Erev Menatinokos. Interesting idea as to why people don't like our Erevs either, because in many cities, like if you ask a typical kid in Valley Village, is it prohibited to carry on Shabbos? And most will say, of course not. It's mutter, we always carry on Shabbos. Meantime, they end up moving to a community without an Erev, then they don't know that there's such a concept. So we don't want Erev forgotten from the kids, so that they should know there's an idea that there's an Erev. You could say that we only institute Eruv Chatzeros so that it should not be forgotten. You could read it for Eruv Chatzeros, but the way Rashi will learn Rashi, that we don't want people to forget about Eruv Tchumen. So Eruv Chatzeros was only instituted as, I guess, a general concept of Eruv that permeates all of Klal Yisrael, because Eruv Chatzeros is very common, so that we can remember the Eruv Tchumen, which should not be forgotten from the Jewish people. Okay, but that's the back end of that's the second statement that doesn't really concern us. What concerns us is you see that there is a distinction between Tchilas Erev versus Shirei Erev, and that distinction might have been where I would have applied the rule of always being Mekel. So I need Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, I need a statement that we follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri to not to make that mistake. Or at least not to apply it in that case. It might actually be true. For all we know, we don't know that it's not true, but we hear for sure by the case of the sleeping Jew, we follow him and we will be Mekel. Okay, let's do the Rashi. B'shira Erev, sheniach Erev mokom ha-mishtamer, l'kam shabasos. You put the Erev in a nice protected place for many weeks. When it's smart ochel mashir beisudos, okay, and over the weeks it became less from the 2 sudas that we require to make the Erev. That has to be enough for 2 meals. So we're Mekel to say it's okay. As long as you had the right amount on the front end when you made the Erev, the fact that it's diminishing as we go on is not a problem. Of machlokes, right? So maybe that's where we're Mekel. But in the case where there is a dispute at the front end of an Erev, well, Nezel Basa Mekel. maybe we won't be lenient. In that case, where the fellow fell asleep, that's about the tchilas erev, where he's going to be kind of shvis. He's not really making an erev. It's a little bit of a misnomer, but it's in that realm of tchilas erev. It's not a realm where you made something and now it's dwindling down and we're at the back end of things. This is at the front end of being kind of shvisa for this Shabbos. So that certainly would fall under the category of tchilas erev. And how do I know there's a distinction? Because the Mishnah says later on Pei Beis Medva Morim D'Tzarch Shir LaRuvei Chatzeros. When do we say that you need a particular amount to make the Eruvin Chatzeros in the first place? O Mozen Shtei Sudos Ben Kulon, or either a meal enough for 2 meals amongst all of them, or Kgrogros L'Chol Echad L'Chol Echad B'Tchilas Erev, or the size of a fig, a food the size of a grogros, which would also be good. So when do you need that? Is only in the front end, but in the back end, as it's dwindling down every week, kol shu l'cholecha, you would need a little small amount. Kol shu sounds like pretty small, just a tiny taste for each person. As long as it's enough for a small little bite for each guy, you don't need 2 sudas. You're good to go. And the whole reason why we said to make Eruvin Chatzeros in the first place, Ella shel lishkach es hatinokos. We don't want the tinokos to forget about the rules of Erev. Shel lishkach teres Erev mideiros habon. We're concerned about the future generations, and if the kids grow up not knowing about Erev, they're not going to know there's a concept of carrying on Shabbos. Avol ikar Erev b'tchumenu. But the real Erev is by Tchumen. So this Rashi indicates that the whole Eruvin Chatzeros concept was really more, I guess, what's the big deal if we let you carry from one Rosh Hashanah to the other? I mean, we were under the impression that this is Gzeira, you might come to carry from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. But it seems from here, I guess we'll see more when we get to it, that it really was more of just a across-the-board concept of protecting Eruvin Tchumen. Okay, we'll see. Fine. So that looks like the final answer of why we need these 2 statements, that we follow the Mako when it comes to Erev, and that we follow Rabbi Yochanan Nuri about the sleeping Jew. Okay, now a little bit of a break, a few lines of just general rules that will not torture the mind. Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Zrika, Amru, Alach Rabbi Kiva Mechavei Roi, Ukrab Yoisi Mechavei Rov. Okay, so here are some rules to take with you throughout Shas. We'll be tested on this at the end. Okay, and that is, we follow like Rabbi Akiva against any counterpart. If it's 1 against 1, Rabbi Akiva is the man. And when it comes to Rabbi Yossi, even when there's 2 against 1, we follow Rabbi Yossi against even his 2 counterparts, 2 adversaries in halacha. And according to Rebbe, we follow him against any 1 counterpart in halacha, but not against 2. So of the 3 people that we had mentioned, only Rabbi Yossi has a power to knock out 2 or more. So when you say the halacha is like him, like what do you mean? How far are we going with this rule? So we have 3 opinions as to how this rule was said and what context it was said. Okay, in what reference are you talking about? Rav Asi Amar halacha, that it's actually the halacha. Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Matin. Rabbi Chia bar Abba says no, it means it leans halacha. And Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina Amar Nirin. Okay, it appears that way, but not that definitive. So what are these 3 things? Let's do the Rashis. We'll see the difference between halacha and Matin and Nirin. These are 3 different halachic positions to take about this rule, about that you follow these Tanoim against either 1 opponent or 2 opponents. Let's see Rashi. Halach Rabbi Akiva mechaveiroi b'chol ducht. In all places, we always follow Rabbi Akiva against any 1 individual. Tell me the exact nature of how this general rule is to be applied. Now you give me sort of a general rule that halacha is like this in all places. Yesh lismach oleh lahoros halacha ma'aseh came. Did you tell me this rule to mamish definitively say that's halacha and I don't have to do any further research? It's simple. It's Rabbi Yossi. That's it. We're done. You follow Rabbi Yossi. Go ahead and do what you need to do. O Dilma Misvar Ba'alma Karma Kain. Or maybe he's just sort of saying it from a general logical perspective, not to say it applies to every specific case, but logically, Rabbi Yossi or Rabbi Kiva, or who's the third one? Who's that? Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yossi, and Rebbe. Right, so those three, that the logic would dictate that it leans in their direction. One more time. But you can't paskin shilas based on general rules. So it'll give you a little bit of an indication that way, and it certainly gives you some support in going in that direction. But it's not a definitive rule that you can go ahead and paskin any shilah as long as you hear the Tana's name. Boom, that's the psak. No, we don't. Maybe we don't mean to go that far. So which one is it? What's the exact parameters of this rule? So you have three opinions. Vasi Amar Halacha, Mamish Kamrei. Ravasi says, no. It is a definitive rule of an absolute green light to go right ahead and paskin that way. Kamar Rabbi Yaakov, okay, Reb Zrika, Lembigma Maisa Minei. When this statement was made by Rabbi Yaakov and Reb Zrika, they were saying it so you can learn the actual Halacha Maisa from this rule. And you can absolutely follow Rabbi Kiva when an individual argues with him, or and you follow Rabbi Yossi even in the place where there's a multitude. Go after Rabbi Yossi, not a problem. The next Amira says, no, not so fast. No, that's not what they meant. What they meant was matin. Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Zrika, lav halacha mamish paske. They were not literally paskening the halacha maisa. Elomatin kamrei, but they were sort of leaning the halacha. Matin hora achar Rabbi Yossi. We lean the halacha. We incline it in the direction of Rabbi Yossi. I feel mokum rabim. Even in a place where there are many arguing with him, it's 2 or 3 against 1. That we would follow. That we're allowed to paskin for a yachid this way. For an individual comes to us and says, "What do I do in this particular case?" And it's Rabbi Yossi against the multitude, you can still follow Rabbi Yossi. Last says Rabbi Yossi, Aval Midrash Bepirke Brab Moidashinan. But not to give out the halacha publicly that, yes, everyone should know that this is the rule. What the Gemara is doing right now is not what they would do in those days. In those days, they would just simply, if you came to me, on the QT, I would give you the psak halacha. Yeah, go ahead and do it. But don't publicize it. Don't make it out to the rabbim, because it's not official. Right, so it's, you're certainly in good shape if you do it, and that is the halacha. But for some reason, we don't feel comfortable enough to publicize it as an official halacha. We'll take that more as a case by case basis. That's position number 2. That's matin. You can privately say it, but you can't publicly say it. And nearin aruye lo marinon. We're not even going to. If you ask us what to do, we're not going to paskin. You can follow Rabbi Yossi or Rabbi Akiva or Rebbe. Vim asa Rabbi Yossi loy madrinovda. But if you already did like Rabbi Yossi, we're not going to return it. We're not going to say do over. That far we won't go. We will allow the halacha to go through. If that's what you did, like we have the expression kedai. Before we had it kedai Rabbi Meir or Rabbi Yossi, whatever. B'shas chadchak here too. If you already did it, we're not going to undo the psak. We're going to let it go through. But we wouldn't have told you that up front. Even if you had asked us privately, we would not have passed in that way. Those are the 3 levels that we are dealing with over here in Psak Halacha.
The point I wanted to, it bothers me over the years, if you have a private ruling and then people from the general population hear, he said privately this is okay, but it's not okay for us or whatever, isn't it breed cynicism when people start seeing, he said, the rabbi says it's for him, he won't do it, but it's okay for him. But it gets confusing. And why was the system like this?
Well, you have to allow a little bit for. There are many cases where the rabbis felt that if you're going to publicize something, it's going to get distorted or confused, and therefore they would give you. If in your case, you need it, and that is the halacha. So we're going to go and say that. But when it comes to, a public situation, they're afraid of either misunderstanding or just taking advantage of this of the halacha. Rav Moshe didn't like Shabbos clocks at all. He felt that Shabbos clocks are going to basically turn Shabbos into a regular weekday. So he was very much against Shabbos clocks. It wasn't per se any particular Shabbos clock maybe would be bad, but so you do have these ideas where, you come to me privately, you ask me, I'll tell you. My Rosh Hashiva had certain opinions in halacha based on his father that, he knew that his father felt this way and he relied on it. He told certain students to rely on it, but he didn't want to publicize it because I guess, again, you're really not supposed to know. That's, when you're given a private psak, you're not supposed to be, telling the world, "Oh, I got this private psak." You're really supposed to keep it.
But we're Jews. That doesn't happen.
Okay, I hear you. Okay, I guess to punish a Jew who needs a psak and it's valid for him, and to deprive him of what he needs right now because of a larger concern. I guess the rabbis felt that
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a valid point. There's enough cynicism anyway to go around, unfortunately.
So the way Rashi explaining these three levels, is that it sounds like it's only if they go with kula. If they're going with chumrah, then the way Rashi's saying it doesn't really fit. You're saying it's if they go with chumrah, then the whole thing
correct.
Doesn't really.
Right. That's true. It's a good observation. Okay. Let's see here. Nirin, we did that. Right, okay, let's go weiter. Koloshin as Amr Yaakov bar Idi, Amr Yochanan. This is the language that was said by Yaakov bar Idi and Amr Yochanan about similar issues. They use this kind of expression, this type of language. Rav Meir Rabbi Yehuda, Lach Rabbi Yehuda. Between Rav Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, we always follow Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosi, Lach Rabbi Yosi. Between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosi, we follow Rabbi Yosi. Ve'en tzorach leimar, based on simple mathematical equations. Okay, if Rabbi Yehuda is stronger than Rav Meir halachically, and Rabbi Yosi is stronger than Rabbi Yehuda halachically, then there's a no-brainer that between Rabbi Yosi and Rav Meir, Ve'en tzorach leimar, Rav Meir, Rabbi Yosi, Lach Rabbi Yosi. That between Rav Meir and Rabbi Yosi, we're certainly going to follow Rabbi Yosi. Hashem Mokom Rav Yehuda Lessa. If Rav Meir isn't considered, a valid halachic opponent when it comes to Rabbi Yehuda to be able to follow him, is there any question that he would lose to Rabbi Yosi as well? So between Rabbi Yosi and Rav Meir, it's done. Okay, we follow Rabbi Yosi. Ravasi Afani Loimeid. I too learned Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Shimon. I like Rabbi Yosi. The Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, again. Afani Loimeid Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Shimon. I like Rabbi Yosi. Between Rabbi Yosi and Rabbi Shimon, we follow Rabbi Yosi. How do I know? And now he's going to say how I know. Damar Rabbi Abba Rabbi Yochanan, I extrapolated the same way you extrapolated. Why? Because Rabbi Yochanan said Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, halak Rabbi Yehuda. Right? Between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, we follow Rabbi Yehuda. Well then, if you have a battle now between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yosi, Sasha Malkam Rabbi Yehuda Lessa, if Rabbi Shimon falls to Rabbi Yehuda, Malkam Rabbi Yosi Bay, is there any question he falls to Rabbi Yosi? Even Rabbi Yehuda falls to Rabbi Yosi. So I've got a simple Kal V'Chomer. So Yiboiluhu Rav Meir of Shimon Mai. Okay, so now you got the two people on the bottom end of the totem pole. Again, halachically, this is not referring to the spiritual status, just who we follow. So Rav Meir and Rav Shimon, what do? These are the two people on the bottom end. If they battle each other, what's the story? On that, where's Johnny when you need him? Teku. Okay, we have a Teku and one of the few in the Masechta. We haven't had that many in Eruvin. Okay, let's catch up on the Rashis here. Kloshna ze Omer B'Yakov Bar Idi ki hai lishna ditmar hachter B'Yakov Reb Zrika itmanami hachter B'Yakov Bar Idi. Okay, the same type of language that was used before by Rabbi Yaakov Reb Zrika. Okay, and Rabbi Yaakov and Bar Idi said similarly in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Lamar halacha, lamar mat, and lamar nirin. Right. So the three opinions that we just had about that issue would apply the same way to this issue. Then when we say halacha is like this, do we mean straight up announce it? Do we just say, if you ask me privately, that's what I'll do? Or do you ask me if you did it already, it'll be done? The same rules. Okay, no, that seems to be the only Rashi on this thing. Okay, next. Over Mishasha. Mishasha says as follows. L'sneo lani kloli. Rav Mishasha says, excuse me, but I don't buy these klolim. I don't buy into them. Rashi, lahani kloli, the kalilin el ploni uploni ploni. That when you pitted one Tana against the other and you said you always go after this Tana, b'chomokom in all places. I don't buy that whole deal and that whole rule. El hechad de mistaver kamar hilchos kavasei vechad mistaver beduchta achrita kidduch avdina kavasei. You take each case one by one, wherever it's more logical based on all the halachic issues surrounding that particular situation. That's what you follow. But there's not going to be an across-the-board rule about one verse or the other. That does not seem to appeal to me, and he rejects it. We know of Mishashaha. So how did Mishasha know this? How did he know to reject this rule that seemed to have been pretty much accepted by a lot of people? He says, how did he know this? Ilay Mahadatan, if he knew it from that which it says in the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon Omer. Rabbi Shimon says, Lamadav Adaimus. So this is our own Mishnah. So we should remember this. We don't learn it that long ago. That what is this case similar to? L'gimel Chatzeros. This is with the Eruv with Chumin, with the guys eating together in that little Dalanamis. That whole deal. So Rabbi Shimon compares it to another situation, and Rabbi Shimon says it's compared to a situation. L'gimel Chatzeros apsuchos zu, three Chatzeros that are open to one another. Upsuchos rishus harabim, and it's also open to rishus harabim. If the two outer ones made a Eruvin Chatzeros with the middle one, he muteres imohen vehe muteres imo. So the middle guy, is mutter to carry into the outer Chatzeros. Vehein, the outer Chatzeros muteres imo. They can carry with the middle guy. But the two outer guys never merged, and they cannot carry with one another. They can't go from Chotzer 1 to Chotzer 3. Okay, we follow Reb Shimon this issue. Uman Palgalad Reb Yehuda. Okay, and who is the one who argues with Reb Shimon about this issue? Okay, we never really got to Machlokes. We just in the Mishnah just says that this is what Reb Shimon it's Doma to, and we don't have the countering opinion yet. I guess we'll learn about it someplace else, or I don't know. I guess it's coming up somewhere. That Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Okay, Uman Palgal Rabbi Yehuda. Who's the one who argues? It's Rabbi Yehuda. Va'amrit I. But then you just say famous rule: Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda. Between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, we always follow Rabbi Yehuda. So it's a raya. Lav shmamino l'sneu. It's a right that we don't hold this rule, because you see that there was a statement here in the name of Rav that we follow Reb Shimon. And it says, that's your proof that you don't hold to the rule? That's not a proof. Oh my kusha. I mean, there could be, I don't know, let's say 75 machlokas in between Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon. What? Because there's one statement we follow Reb Shimon that disrupts the rule? My kusha. That's not a kasha. Dilma heichad itmar itmar, heichad lo itmar lo itmar. If you have a specific case, we follow Reb Shimon, okay, that's an exception to the rule, but the rule can still be in place. It doesn't mean you're going to knock out the rule, it just means that there are exceptions to the rule. As we well know, that could happen. So just because we have one case shouldn't negate the general principle that Reb Yehuda trumps Reb Shimon. Let's do the Rashi. Lamad Davidoim Masisin Hit, our Mishnah back on Men Heyamid Beis. He muteres himohen upliga bonoleb brisa v'yamr shloshtan asuros. Right, so the brisa, maybe we did the brisa, I might remember, but there's a brisa that says Reb Shimon excuse him, but no, you can't. I don't buy if 1 to 3 can't carry with each other, then 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 also can't carry. So your whole principle is not acceptable in my mind. And who is that brisa? That brisa is Reb Yehuda. Aman Pogala Rabbi Yehuda Dohavi Stam Bar Plukta. That was his standard Bar Plukta. So if you have a brisa that does not have any name taken on Reb Shimon, you can pretty much assume that brisa is Rabbi Yehuda. Another version, Man Pogala Rabbi Yehuda Davi Ayri LeElmin Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Leizrach Shirtza. Okay, because Rabbi Yehuda took on Reb Shimon earlier. It's not about Stam brisa being Rabbi Yehuda. It's about Rabbi Yehuda has already engage Reb Shimon in that area of halacha and that whole Mishnah and that whole discussion. And he says you can do it to any side you want. So it was on that whole issue that Rabbi Shimon said, what's this compared to? Varminon, Dachi Kamalu Reb Shimon L'Rabbanon, and we said that this is what Reb Shimon is saying to the Rabbanon. Michti l'mad of adaymer, ma'ishna hasan the plagisu alai. Why is this any different than here? Well, why there you argue and here you don't argue? Al mahanar chabanon the ayri le'elminei b'dal namis the shvisa iflagnami b'chatzeros. So it sounds like, based on the context of that discussion, that not only do they argue about the Dalar Amis of the Keli that's resting with that whole Mishnah, they also argue about Chatzeros. In other words, he says, you should agree. Don't you agree to me? And then they answer back, no, we don't agree with you. I guess he was sort of assuming that everyone agreed by Chatzeros, and they answered back, no. So it's not just the general rule that a Stam Mishnah, a Stam Bryce against Reb Shimon is Reb Yehuda, but it's more specific to the nature of this particular argument, where the initial argument was clearly Reb Yehuda. And that's why the Brisa, chances are, if there's a argument in the Brisa, it continues to be Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so that's just a technical point as to how we know that it's Rabbi Yehuda who argued. Okay, so we tried to disrupt the rule. We said one disruption doesn't make for a break of the rule. You have a rule, and then you just have another opinion. That's not so bad. That doesn't prove the rule is not a valid rule. Okay, so let's try another one. Elom Yehudatzan. Back to the Gemara, 2, 4, 6 lines from the bottom. Actually, no, we saw one more Rashi. Heichad Itmar, that should be the one we did, as opposed to the one coming up. Let's just do it. Heichad Itmar Bed Yalach Reb Shimon Itmar. I'm not denying that there might be exceptions. When you have somebody like Rav saying that in this case we follow Reb Shimon, fine, it's said. When we said the general rule that between Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon we always follow Reb Yehuda, it's when there was no official statement. That's when the rule applies. But when there's an official statement of somebody of Rav stature, well, of course, that's an exception to the rule. So rules are meant to be broken, and this is one of them, that it's a rule when it's not said. When nothing is said, it's a rule. But when something is said, then the rule doesn't apply. So this doesn't prove anything. So let's try another one. Elam Yihah. Okay, 6 lines from the bottom. But let's try this one. The Tan, another Mishnah, as we fly through Eruvin here, it says in another Mishnah, this also is L'Kama Nun Tes. Okay, that's again Art Scroll B. Elimod Tan, Ir Shal Yachid Nasa Sharabim. If a city that was a private city became a public city, okay, and it could be interpreted as private ownership or public ownership, but Rashi doesn't seem to learn that way. It means whether it's could it be Rishus Rabbim or not. So an ear that can only be Rishus Hayachid because it's lacking the qualifications for Rishus Rabbim. Then it became Rishus Rabbim. Marvin is Kula Shal Rabbim. You're still allowed to, but not fully. I guess it became bigger, became more like a Rishus Rabbim. You're allowed to make an erev around the entire city. One more time. Then you're allowed to make an area for the entire area. But if you had an area which was the Rabbim and it shrunk to the Yachid, Ein Marvin is Kula. If it started as a non-Erev, non-eligible Erev situation and now became eligible, yes, you can make an Erev. However, Ein Marvin is Kula El Imkein Oisa Chutza Lo Kir Chadash Shebuda Sheish B'Chamishim Diyarin. You have to leave over a place which would be like a new city or a name of a city of Chadasha in Yehuda that had 50 people, 50 inhabitants. You have to leave over a spot. Okay, this is not a Zeichel Churban kind of thing, but it's a Zeichel Erev kind of thing. And we want you to remember that there were rules here that governed you that you needed to follow. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda that you need to leave over. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says that's not what you need to do. Sholosh chatzeros shel shnei batim. You don't need 50 people. You need 3 chatzeros of 2 houses each. That's what you need to leave over. So nowhere nearly such a big amount of 50 people. Here you have Rav stating again, Reb Shimon. We follow Reb Shimon. Uman Polo Galei Reb Yehuda, and who's Reb Shimon's adversary here? It's Reb Yehuda. So you see that the rule doesn't apply because here two of them are going at it, and we still follow Reb Shimon. So again, same deal. Va'amrit Reb Yehuda. I've Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda. Didn't we say that that there's a rule that between these two you always follow Rabbi Yehuda? And so this seems to disrupt your rule. So again, the Gemara says the same thing. My kusha, what kind of disruption is it? Same exception to the rule. When we just said, when it's stated, it's different. Here it's stated, so it's stated. So we're not going to follow the rule. But every time it's not stated, then things will be different. Okay, so we're 0 for 2 on showing how we know this rule is not a good rule. Let's catch up on the Rashis here. Top of the page. Sholosh Chatzeros Akam B'Keitzad Ma'avrin. Keitzad Ma'avrin Ukamar. There's also later on Daf Tes Ukamar B'Yehuda Ir Shel Rabim. Of a city that was a Rab V'Nasa Shochid, but it became smaller. Shesmatu Uchlusei Ma'avar B'Chavasa Samachribui. It no longer has 600,000 people. Vodam Yahashel Digla Midbar. Now it's no longer similar to the formations in the Midbar. Ein Ma'arvin Es Kula Yachad. Then you cannot make an Erev together as one big city, even though it went less than 600,000. Elim Shayr Chutzala Nun Diorin. Until you leave over 50 people, Shol Yarvima, that cannot be part of the Erev. You got to leave them distinct as not being able to carry here. Lemevi Hekers Li'ir Shel Rabim. Okay, to make it recognizable, make it clear remembrance that this was a city of Rabim. The Lolarvu Kula. That so as not to make it all one big Erev, Ela Muvos, only different alleys and different groupings, not to make it all one big one. Right, that if you had a real big city, because this was a big city, so if you leave something over, then people remember, oh yeah, big cities can't have an Erev because look, you see it's left over. If you ma'ariv the whole city, people might come get confused and say a 600,000 city can also, a populated city can also have an Erev, and they'll come to forget. Rabbi Shimon says you don't need 50 people. So 3 chatzeros, each one of 2 homes, is good enough. So bottom line is, you see that there's a machlokes here. I guess we'll get more details later on when we get to Nuntes. But right now, for us, it's suffice it to say that Rav Paskin like Rabbi Shimon, and doesn't disprove. And the Gemara says, no, it doesn't prove anything. Okay, let's try one more. We got a couple minutes.
That's the mavoi for the Gimel Chatzeros, right?
That's the mavoi. Well, yeah, okay. I mean, it sounds like, right. I mean, in other words...
You don't need a mavoi for 50 people, but just as long as it has Gimel Chatzeros. Is that what it means?
No, one more time. Where are you?
I thought we were doing the mavois we were doing separately.
Right. Shaliarvu ima lemevi heker li'ir shel rabim delo larvi kula ela mavos mavos. If you have a big city, then you can't merge them all together. You have to make each one mavui, small groupings.
Right, but normally what we do is we have it's basically our Eruv is an Eruvin Mevos, right? Is that what we have?
No, generally we have Eruvin Chatzeros.
No, I'm saying for.
Oh, that's not even. That's I wouldn't even call that. No, that's Tzuras of Pesach. That's not a Shtufei Mavos. We'll get to that. That's a whole other type of Eruv.
So what are we?
In other words, he's saying that if you have a big city, the only way you can get to carry in a big city, if you compartmentalize it and break it down into different alleys and just make...
So that's actually two Mavos, right?
Yeah.
So this Gimel Chatzeros is the mavoi for these Chatzeros. That's the one that you need. But you don't need to have a 50 for that mavoi. No,
I didn't read it that way. I read it that if you have 50 diorin... You have to shol yarvi ma lemevi heker. Why should you leave 50 over? It should be a heker for the for Klal Yisrael li'ir shel rabim the lo le'erva kula elam avos.
But those 50 have their own mavoi.
I mean, I don't think he's getting into that. He's saying that why do you need 50 left over? So that people remember when you have a big city, don't think you can make an Erev in a big city surrounding the entire city, but rather you must make Uvos in the big city. That's how I read it. I'm not sure how you want to read it.
Only because it's the Gimel Chatzeros would be like those Gimel Chatzeros have to make their own Shitufim Mevos.
But we're in Rabbi Yehuda now about the 50 diorin.
Right, I'm saying, and Rabbi Shimon says you don't need the 50, you just need Gimel Chatzeros
to make
and those Gimel Chatzeros who can make their own Shitufim Mevos, they make it separately, and that's good enough to have this. No.
Okay, I mean okay. I mean that's
like because it's the Mevos, so the Mevos is you have two of them. You have one very large one and one small one. The small one can either be 50 people or 3 chatzeros, depending on who's.
But you're saying Mavos is in Rabbi Shimon.
He's in both.
Well, okay. I'm not sure. I don't think you have to read it that way.